do independent features as an actor. You don't have to like be in the hugest Marvel movie to go like be an actor and have fun and learn something. I think there's so much to learn from an environment of everyone learning that creates this like beast of knowledge, and we're all like just trying to get better at our jobs and trying to, you know, eventually get to the Marvel movie, but like in the meantime we, you know, that.
I will first ask, how did you all first get involved with What We Find on the Road?
I guess I'm first.
Yeah.
I got involved with a pretty standard audition process. The amazing Susan Shopmaker was casting this film, who I've known for several years, but and I've been a reader in her audition rooms and stuff. But it was the first Shopmaker that I booked, so it was very rewarding to, you know, have one of those relationships with the casting director that you nurture for many years, and then finally you book one. So yeah, it was a pretty standard audition process for me.
Yeah, same here. That was well said, so I shouldn't just double up on it. Finn?
Not the same. When I was like a sophomore in high school, I went to a screenwriting camp and didn't really come away with anything except one line of something I'd thrown away. And my dad took that and then wrote a script. And then like 6 years later in 2020, he was like, should we do this? And I was like, okay. And then we did it.
Ben and Chris, I've seen that you guys come from a theater background. What was it like sort of
It's generous.
switching switching to film?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe good, maybe not good, maybe too much things I was doing. I don't know. Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like acting's acting, but maybe that's a problem. I don't know.
Real. I feel like for me, I'm sorry. What was the question?
You had a theater background.
Oh wait, my theater background.
Actually, a child maybe in
Yes.
Matilda.
No, you're so right. Yeah, that did happen. It blanks. I think my theater background, I don't know if I really used it much in this movie other than like just to be dramatic. I think I learned a lot as a theater kid that I apply to my life now, not really on screen. Like, yeah, just the drama of it all. I think if you've ever known a theater kid or known anyone who's done like Broadway, they're just a really dramatic kid. Thank you.
And then, Katherine, you've done quite a bit of TV work. What was it like for you switching over to this movie?
Yeah, it was really fun. This was certainly kind of the biggest role that I played in a professional sense. I'd done lots of bit parts, so it was a challenge and it was scary and it was exciting to kind of have a whole character arc and go, okay, right, this is what I've trained for, I can do this, and get to build out like the biography of a person and make sure that she comes to life on screen. So it was very fun.
So at the beginning of the film, it sort of seems like it's kind of going to be this mystery, and then it kind of switches over into being this emotional take about, you know, TJ's relationship with his father and trying to find him. I'm curious, was there something that appealed to being in this film for each of you, or what you kind of took away from that journey?
Yeah, I think just his action, TJ's action, and recognizing something that he felt he needed closure or a confrontation or something. There was something that was eating at him, and he needed to do something to deal with that. And then just taking action and taking responsibility for your life and doing something. I found that inspiring.
Do any of you guys have other thoughts about?
Do you want to take it?
Well, Maeve is sort of different because she comes in halfway through.
Yeah.
So that was exciting for me in that I get to be in a slightly different space than the boys. And she gets to kind of come in and initiate the change for him. Maybe that's taking too much responsibility, but I think she kind of like comes in at that pivotal moment for him and is part of that tone shift. So it was cool to get to embody that.
Yeah, I felt like when Jake leaves at the airport, there's like kind of that montage of TJ just like driving around and he's like by himself. And then Maeve comes in and she's sort of this like older, wiser type of figure. And I'm curious, like, what did you kind of think of her as a character?
I mean, I loved her. I loved her and I built her out, and there were lots of little references in the script that may or may not come through on screen, but that she's a poetry reader and she's kind of this, like you said, like a wiser, older soul. And she was written to be quite a bit older, and then they cast me. But I tried to bring. I knew I wasn't going to bring the maturity of someone in their 30s, but I wanted to bring a sense of her coming from a tougher background, and she's just been through something. We don't know what it is in the film, but she's been through an experience that's made her grow. I'll leave it there.
Well, she kind of helps TJ sort of, kind of feel more confident a little bit.
And grow up in a way.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, obviously they wind up kind of developing a little bit of romance as well. And I'm curious, like, what you guys think their relationship sort of stands, when they do part ways.
That's a good question. I think more than anything, I think to us it felt like two individuals who were engaged in a tumultuous period in their lives and looking for clarity or a path forward. And I think there was a bond there that was what felt deeper than, or I don't want to say that, but that's what I got for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think bond is a good word. I think there are two characters who understand each other, and they're both coming off of experiences of being misunderstood, and so they see each other in that. And yes, there's a little bit of romance, but I don't think that's the point. I think the point is just recognizing yourself in another person, and that can be explored through romance, but it can also be explored through friendship, and maybe they have a little bit of a blend of both.
Yeah.
I do also want to talk about the dynamic between TJ and Jake. I felt like while watching it, they sort of had these kind of very different relationships with their family, specifically their fathers. Obviously TJ is going to California to find his, but I feel like Jake's dad is like texting him and like, please come home, like I'll fly you back. And I'm wondering kind of if you guys had any thoughts on like approaching any of their relationships with their families through those characters.
For me personally, I feel like Jake reminds me of myself in a lot of ways because he's so MIA with his parents. And growing up, I definitely have been known to just like take a trip to Niagara Falls and be like, all right, I'll see you later, guys. And they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'll see you in 3 days. I'll be home soon. So I think in that way, I'm like, Jake is just me. The way that he deals with his parents. So when I got the script, I was like, oh, this should be easy. And then one day on set, they were like, hey, we got to sneak in this scene to explain to everyone Jake's situation with his parents. Can you like just improvise something for 5 minutes? And that's the scene I think made it to the movie where I'm just like, Dad, I will be there soon. No, I can't. This is the last summer of my life. And I'm pretty sure all of those things I had like actually told my parents in real life. I was just digging in the vault for it.
Did you guys have to do like a lot of improvisation or?
Yeah, we got to. It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any scenes in particular that, Katherine or Finn, you could think of?
There's a scene where we're driving on the road, and it was the first day of filming for me. And Finn legitimately convinced me that there were Noths, which were magical creatures with one antler.
That's a tough look for you there.
That is a real reaction of me being like, are you serious? Like maybe this happens in Arizona. I don't know. And so they kept it in the film, even though it makes me look like an idiot.
Now you've admitted it. It's out.
Yeah, now the whole world knows. But that was improvised.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. So obviously it's a road trip movie. They go, TJ, Maeve, and Jake, travel along together, whether it's TJ and Maeve or TJ and Jake, to all these different cities, across the country. And I'm curious, what was the filming process for that like? And were there any sort of challenging scenes or challenging days that you guys had?
I think there's some challenging days in there. The process was we literally did the whole drive. We started in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and ended in I ended in San Francisco area, and we had plotted it out, and we would just we were in an RV, and we'd stop and we'd film. We'd get in the car, we'd film, then we'd go to the next location, and there was a lot of driving, a lot of time hanging out in the RV, which was like really awesome, and getting to know each other. And it was really nice to have such like cool people involved, because otherwise it would have been kind of a nightmare. You're just stuck with these people in an RV for however many weeks. So, yep.
You're looking at me like, take it from me. For me, I think a special memory along the way. I have a lot of special memories. I would say some are like really simple, like hopping off our RV, like that Finn was just telling you about when we got to, I'm pretty sure it was Tennessee. Yes, it was Tennessee, because I'd been listening to Tennessee Whiskey on loop. And we get out of the RV, and we had driven for 10 hours, and so we're all so exhausted. And it's like 10 hours of not only driving, but also stopping to set up and also filming and like the everything. And so me and Finn were just kind of like over it. And we got out and we sat in the middle of the parking lot, and I just crossed my legs with a speaker in my lap playing, I'm pretty sure, Kodak Black. And Finn just paced in circles around me for at least 20 minutes. And I was like, we've lost our minds, but we're free. And we've done it. That's one of my favorite memories.
That sounds cool. I had a different experience because I drove up to Cape Cod. We did a table read in Cape Cod. And then the boys left, and they were filming for several weeks, and I didn't hear from anyone. And then I got to fly into Arizona and meet up with them. So for me, it was sort of like arriving, not knowing what to expect, and everyone else has been on the road for several weeks, and I'm just sort of slotting in and figuring out how that works. But it was really cool, and it was an extremely light crew because they had to be able to go from one side of the country to the other, but it meant that we were like kind of finding a lot of it together, and everyone's doing like 2 to 3 jobs, and it was very collaborative, I think is what I'm saying, and we kind of made a lot of choices together and decided how to shoot things together. So the process of going across the country definitely lent itself to the actual creative collaboration.
Were there any places along the way that you guys hadn't been to before that you were kind of seeing for the first time?
I hadn't been to any of it.
Oh, wow.
I had been to America. I live in America, but I had not been anywhere west of Texas. So the Grand Canyon was pretty cool.
Finn was saying that earlier. He was like, dude, the Grand Canyon.
It's like not disappointing. Like
It's
you
very
go and you're like,
big.
whoa, this is actually fucking amazing.
I'm so jealous of that. That is so iconic. I love that.
What about you?
I just forgot we were on stage. You take it.
Okay. I know because I went on the scout trip with Chasen, the director. So we combed over everywhere we went and found locations that we basically didn't end up using. But I did the journey already once before we filmed. But that was cool.
I kind of felt like watching the movie, obviously it's very much like last hurrah before college type of energy of the movie. Kind of, I felt like early 2000s, sort of heartfelt comedy. I kind of thought of Crossroads while watching it, but it's a little different. It has Britney Spears, but I was curious, were there any movies?
Hello. I'm obviously Britney in this.
But were there any movies or other shows or anything that you guys used as inspiration?
No. I didn't. No.
For me, I would say the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower was a huge inspiration for me. Yeah, there's a character in that movie played by an actor I won't name. But I was very inspired by that guy's role, and so I took that on for the movie. What about you?
I can't recall if there were movies or shows, but I certainly the kind of, I don't know, is Americana the right word? Like it there's a vibe to the film, and you could feel it from the script immediately. So yeah, we knew what we were looking for. I think maybe it was more music and stuff for me, but there was definitely a feeling to it.
I want to talk about the end where TJ finally meets his dad and he gets to see what's in the box, and there's the energy of, the dad's not as bad as, he's sort of portrayed to be. And I'm curious, Finn, if you have any thoughts about that final scene or the emotions behind it.
Yeah, that was interesting. We had arrived in Northern California, and then some guys tried to rob us, and it was a whole thing. And we had to pick it back up in 2 weeks in LA. And what am I getting at? The feelings of the end, and I don't know. I would say it's interesting playing words and language that my dad wrote, and kind of having my own like instinct for things, and then reckoning with like what is actually in front of me and my dad's perspective, which is also as valuable, and trying to sink into that, what he was trying to say and what the movie was, and not what maybe I had imagined previously it to be. And that was probably I'm probably not speaking very well, but that was the journey of getting to that last moment for me in a general sense.
No, I appreciate it. It was really powerful too, watching it. I'm curious where you think maybe the relationship sort of goes from that moment. Obviously, we see TJ driving, back down, but
yeah, I think I felt it like I don't know where it goes, and I don't know if I don't want to say, but for me it felt like something internally that I needed resolved. I don't know about resolve, but I had I could move on from it, and I feel like leaving from there, I felt ready to really begin the next phase of my life.
I do want to go from there and sort of go back to a later, funnier thing, which was the box, which was kind of a mystery the entire time. It was kind of in the trunk, and Jake didn't really know what was in there, and it was kind of the mystery until the end. And obviously I won't spoil it for anyone who's watching, but I'm curious, if you guys are reading the script and had any thoughts at first, what might have been in there.
I loved the box personally because it really became a third character for us, where we were like, I don't know, it really just divided us on and off screen. I remember me and Finn arguing about who was right, and if it was okay for them to have done that as friends. And so the box really divided us, didn't it?
Yeah, that's true. I remember that.
On and off screen, we were like,
I was
no,
like,
no,
you're
no,
being
that's wrong.
Unreasonable.
Yeah, it really tripped us out in the same way it did our characters. Actually, it means different things, and obviously, Jake being a brown man traveling across America, that steel box in the trunk is just gonna mean something different to him, and I think that really mattered to me, especially.
I do want to talk about another sort of character in the film, which was obviously the car. And you guys were learning how to figure out how to gas, figure out how to put the roof down. Did either of you, or even Catherine, have experience with older cars, know what you were doing at all?
Absolutely not. No idea.
No. We had Paul Guilfoyle's at the beginning of the movie. His partner mechanic is this guy named Billy Amaral, who's the real mechanic who like kept that car alive for years. And his son Evan came with us on the trip, and in a lot of ways, he's the most important part of the movie because he's like the reason the car didn't explode or something after like 2 days.
Yeah.
So that was really all on his shoulders.
I did get the 5-minute, but I do want to think about, so last one of my final questions, what do you hope audiences take away from what we find on the road?
I would hope it might give people some space on the road to consider the important relationships in their lives and how far they're willing to go or not go for the sake of those relationships. I guess that'd be my hope.
I would say I hope people who watch the movie walk away with like two realities. I hope that you're either like, I need to go across America with my best friend, or I hope that you have a bit more patience for like the whole world after watching the movie, because I think the movie, one of the lines at the end says like there are two sides of every story, and I think like we often as people would hear that second side of the story if we just stood around long enough to hear it, and I think you could only do that if you're patient. And so yeah, patience.
That was very well said. Not sure how to follow that one up. But I guess I'll add that I think that Maeve is someone who confronts her problems head on. And I think that in the end, that's what all the characters do, which is a beautiful sentiment. So a good thing to take away from the film.
I do want to go through and ask each of you as well if you had a favorite moment or even a scene that you feel really defines each of your characters in the movie.
Mine came to me really quickly, guys. It's this scene where we're like making that campfire and then we try to eat the sandwich and I'm like, this is gross. That scene was huge for us filming. I feel like off camera at that point. I remember there was lightning in the distance that day in Arkansas, and it's haunted me ever since. I don't know about you, but do you think about the lightning in Arkansas that day?
No. But I
didn't
remember
think you
it.
did.
It was amazing.
It was insane. Yeah, that campfire scene is just so special to me.
Actually, speaking of the box, one of my favorite things about Maeve was how this box is an issue in the film, and obviously it divides the two of you. And then when it gets to the time, TJ's sort of mulling it over of like, do I tell her about the box in the back of the car? Do I not tell her? And when it gets to the scene where he eventually does, she just goes, well, then like, you gotta fucking open it. Like, she's not overwhelmed by it, and she encourages you to keep going. And there's just sort of like a bluntness there. That yeah, it was something that I was really latched onto when I was building out the character of like, she just isn't phased, which is a really cool quality that I wish I had more of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that come to mind, both from the character's perspective and like just movie making, and also just experience of getting to do a road trip with like these people. That was, it was like, I'll never forget that part too. I'm trying to think of the first scene that came to mind was that when I showed you the box, and I remember that night that was one of those nights I felt like I was losing my mind a little bit. You remember? But
That was a late one.
yeah, but I feel like, yeah, I think that scene too.
Is there anything in particular, maybe advice or things you learned from working on this movie?
Do independent features as an actor. You don't have to like be in the hugest Marvel movie to go like be an actor and have fun and learn something. I think there's so much to learn from an environment of everyone learning that creates this like beast of knowledge, and we're all like just trying to get better at our jobs and trying to, you know, eventually get to the Marvel movie, but like in the meantime we, you know, that
I think piggybacking off of that, it was a small crew, it was an indie crew, and I had this experience of learning like everyone's opinion is as valuable as everyone else's. I remember having a conversation in the RV with you and the woman who was the dog trainer, and she was like helping us figure out this scene and helping us figure out where to go and get to the bottom of it. And it was truly collaborative, and like her opinion helped us so much, and it was just a really joyful experience to be there at like 2:00 in the morning being like, I don't know, what does this mean and what can we do and how can we fix it, and I think that's something that you find on small sets that is harder to reach on bigger sets. So agreed.
Yeah, I think, this movie made me want to chase that kind of experience. And I would say, yeah, you can get that just making stuff with your friends. Like, it's the shit. It's awesome. I'm not supposed to. It's awesome. You should do that.
I already swore.
I am getting time, but I guess if there's anything else to close, if you guys want to share about the movie.
Congrats, Finn Haney, for your first time leading a movie, because that was really awesome. And he broke his toe while filming the last scene.
Thank you, man. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.